In this lively episode of G&T Sips and Giggles, one for the road, Glenn and Tina discuss the woes of Glenn's new car troubles with their signature humour, share stories about their experiences with Airbnb. They then shift gears to chat about the latest on Justin Timberlake getting arrested. Finally, they swerve into London's vibrant drag bar scene, and Tina talks about her admiration for the talented Maura, icon Lilly Savage, and trailblazer Danny La Rue. So, grab your favourite drink and join the fun for an episode of laughs and fabulous tales on G&T Sips and Giggles.
Marshall Adams.
Oh, well, Miss Legs, how are you this week?
I am
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious,
even though the sound of it is something quite
atrocious.
If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
That's how gay I am today, darling.
Oh, hilarious. What have you been up to? Tell me everything. I want to know all your biz.
Well, I have been, the weather has taken a really lovely turn.
It has. It's
gorgeous.
Absolutely.
So it's gardening, power hosing, which I adore. Love being out. And online shopping.
Oh, you buying anything nice?
Yes. All will be revealed as long as it fits me. Because if it doesn't, it's doing a U-turn. Return to sender. Yes, and looking after mummy and wee Thumper.
This week, I got myself a new car. And, well, after 4 years of having the same car, I finally got a new one. And I was so super excited and delighted and over the moon to get a brand new car, as you do. You sort of look forward to it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I've only had the car, about a week now, and I've already got problems with it.
Oh,
sad times.
Oh no!
But cars have so much technology in them nowadays. It's like a technology thing that's not working. So I had to drop it down today to get them to look at it. So it's going to be in for a couple of days. So yes, the car that's parked outside the studio at the moment is my replacement.
Studio.
This is our studio.
I know, and it's a gorgeous wee sofa /studio.
My living room.
But here, see, and I turned the corner, I thought, man, the wrong street. That's a different car.
Yeah.
Than the other one. And then I thought, oh, right, okay. Oh, yeah. And then I remembered you were having a few dips.
Now, to be fair to the dealership, they could go one of two ways. I can get really, really pissed off about it, which isn't really going to do anybody any good. I mean, at the end of the dealership sold me the car. They didn't make it. So I understand there's a disconnect there, but yet they still should be in some way responsible for putting it right. And I have to say, they really have gone out of their way to try and put it right.
You know what? You actually hit on something there that I would love to talk about, because you know the way my name is Tina Likes Tantrum.
Yes.
And I'm not, there's a misconception in that name, and people think tantrum is to do with being spoilt and argumentative, and there's another term, tantrum, kind of always like never wrong and stuff like that. When I was younger, I was very kind of sort of all of those things, and basically in the last, I would say, ever since I turned 50, I don't care anymore. I'm a lot more easier going. Like, you going to get your car fixed, there's no point in arguing. Listen, there's something wrong with my car. We apologise. We'll fix your car.
I drove it off 2 days.
And then you had issues.
And there was a warning light come on, and since then things haven't worked. But you're right. But I think age definitely plays a part in that.
Oh, of course.
I'm also looking at it in sort of like through the lens of what am I really going to achieve here? Like there's not really anything that they can do. I mean, I could hand the car back, but that's not going to make things any better for me because I need it to get about. So I'm just going to make things more difficult for myself. Do you know that way?
Another thing that really helped me mellow, that's the word, would mellow is Mummy coming to live with me.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at life from her perspective and her thoughts, and listening to her talking about today's world in comparison to what her world was like, kind of has made me go, all right. The things that I never would have thought, things that other people would find a wee bit crazy, but honest and open questions about when she's saying to me, Tina, what does that mean? And Tina, who is that? And is that what they're doing nowadays? And it has made me kind of really, when I have to explain who, what, where, when and why, it's kind of role reversal. Because when I was little, it was me asking Mummy, who's that? What is that?
Yeah.
Where is this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's made me like really kind of sort of slow down, take it easy, understand is another thing. And I found that through all the different things that I go through with Mummy, appointments and different visits and different people coming, you know, to see Mummy, that there are times when it is a wee bit close to the bone.
You get
let's just say.
frustrated.
I get
You
frustrated.
get frustrated in the moment.
But what I have learned is there's no point.
Yeah.
It's only you doing that to you.
Yeah.
Stop. But also what I have found is, and here's another wee thing that I have learned, you get more when you're much nicer about it. When you're standoffish and cheeky, a wee bit cheeky about it, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not. I've learned the hard way with that.
Well, actually, it's funny, just when you're saying that, I think there's a lot of truth in that, because whenever I went in to say that the car wasn't working, they told me that they would need to keep it in for a couple of days.
Right.
But they were going to offer me a significantly smaller car. Now, the problem I have is we have gigs.
Yeah.
And I said, look, can you assure me that it's only going to be in for 2 days? Because if it's anything longer than that, then I'm going to need the car back and I'll have to bring it back in the following week, because I have to cart equipment around, and giving me a small car is just not going to work. And she says, oh, well, we wouldn't expect it to be in that long, but, we would have to assess that when the need came to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fine. I thought, well, I can't really do much about it. So I left at that point, and the manager of the car garage rang me and actually said, we know that you use your car for gigs and things like that, so we will give you an older version of the car that you've got just to tide you over. So there's no worry there that you're not going to have a car to be able to sort of get stuff around. And I thought, well, actually, and this is where I was saying, they've went out of their way to try and put it right. And I didn't get, sort of upset, or I didn't sort of, I wasn't confrontational about the whole thing.
Because that makes, you ever see online, the Karens,
oh
the
God,
Karens,
yeah.
aren't they? Oh,
yeah.
You know what? That worries me a bit, because my frame of mind now and my approach to things is completely like the person who's holding the camera. Okay, Karen.
But but just in saying that, like, I'm not saying that I'm immune from being frustrated, because I definitely have my moments.
Mm-hmm.
But just in that situation where I've literally spent a lot of money on something that's brand new, out of the factory, it's a big investment.
Yeah.
It's the second biggest investment to buying a house.
That's it.
And within 2 days, it developed a fault. And I mean, by right, I could have just went back and demanded a brand new car or whatever, because I'm still within that 14-day cooling off period. Just cancel the agreement, take it back. I'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to serve myself or anybody in doing that. And I think because of my day job, I kind of understand that cars are so packed with technology now that no technology will be bug free. No. And there's a small bug in there. It's a brand new car. It's a brand new lineup off the model that I've bought. So I'm looking at it through this sort of lens of, I just need to it'll get resolved, but there's no point in me getting frustrated about it,
No, I get you, but I also think, like, obviously the garage is going to be like a wee bit embarrassed as well.
Well, and I think this is the reason why they got in touch with me so soon, because they were like, this shouldn't happen, and I don't want that to be like the lasting legacy of you coming here to buy a car, that way. But look, hopefully they get it resolved. Hopefully it's something simple. Turn it off and back on again or something.
That's what you do. You know when you're at a
issues.
gig and everything just stops working, and the first thing they all say is, "Did you turn it off and turn it on again?" And you're like, "Yes, 4 times."
It's the truth.
And
It's the truth. It solves most issues.
It does.
It's like if you ever wanted to be a tech support person, that is tech support 101. Have you tried turning it off and on again? And I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 times that will resolve it. You think I'm a wizard? I just tell you to turn it off.
I know you're a wizard. You're not just any ordinary wizard, you're my wizard.
But here,
What?
so I was casually perusing through the news articles, as you do.
Oh.
And I came across this article. So have you ever stayed in an Airbnb before?
Yes.
So I can't wait to hear about your experience.
Okay.
Right? And I'll tell you about an experience that I've had, which is why I will probably never stay in an Airbnb again.
Okay.
But I learned that Barcelona, the city of Barcelona, plan to ban Airbnb by 2028. Did you hear about this?
I heard of something about this. That's why I'm nodding my head.
Okay.
I heard of something about this. And I also believe that if Barcelona do ban Airbnb altogether, there are a couple of other countries waiting.
Yeah.
Because it's a nightmare.
Yeah, well, definitely is. Yeah, 100%. Now, from what I've understood is that the Barcelona Council will revoke 10,101 tourist flat licenses. And they've said that the city's socialist mayor and those 10,000 apartments will be used by the city residents. And this is the same thing that's happening across the Balearics as well and the Canaries. There's a lot of protests at the moment about rising rents and nowhere for locals to live. And it's all based on tourism. So I get why they're doing it.
So do I.
However, you have that very fine balance of a lot of Spain's economy is based upon tourism. And when you start to alienate your
source of income.
Your source of income.
Yeah.
It's very hard to come back from that.
Yeah. Well, that actually happened much closer to home in Portrush, because the locals who want to stay in Portrush found that the prices were so expensive that they couldn't afford to mortgage or rent because of the tourism.
Yeah. And and it's still, I mean, I don't know if you've looked at a price of an apartment up there, but late 90s, you could have bought one of those Victorian houses, I would have said, for maybe 60 or 70 grand. They're now going for $750,000.
Wow.
It's the economy up there is totally booming, and they've got cruise lines that are now starting to tender ships and all in. So they've got tourism that's starting to really kick off.
Yeah.
But the golf tournament really put it back on the map again. And there's another one planned, I think, for next year. And already there's new hotels that have been built. Properties have been demolished and new ones been new ones have sprung up.
Yeah.
So they're totally preparing for that.
Well, you see, the welfare system in the Canary Islands isn't great at all. And it's not like what we have here. Like social housing developments are very few and far between.
Yeah.
So when they see, I can understand, as you can, when they see people outside of their country coming in and buying these, these developments.
Yeah.
And then they rent them out.
Yeah.
I understand that. I get that. But they're building those developments in order to create more money.
Yeah. And that's it. And then go back to the example. So it's been estimated that the sector for temporary lets, or Airbnb is what we're calling them, contributes to approximately €347 million into the public fund in Barcelona every year. So it's not a small amount of money. Like, that's significant tax that's being generated through that. But again, you have to put people before profit, and unfortunately, that's not what's been happening of late.
I was an Airbnb host. I did do Airbnb, and I loved it.
I remember you being an Airbnb host. Yes,
and it was absolutely brilliant.
Okay, so that's interesting. But you're coming at that from a host.
As a host,
did you ever have an experience of where you stayed in an Airbnb, other than your own house, of course?
Yeah,
which I'm sure you would have rated 5-star for anyway.
Oh, of course, absolutely. 5-star. There's a pop group from the 80s. I, as a host, loved it, and I, as a guest, loved it, because it's someone's home you're going to stay in. Don't be expecting 5-star. You're never going to get it. And anybody with a really nice, decent home really wouldn't want to put it on Airbnb, only other than the fact that they're struggling and they need extra income. So if you have a really lovely home, and it's a huge, massive undertaking.
I would think so, yeah.
Every time someone steps across your door, you're handing your keys over to them.
So can I just interrupt you? Because you're coming at that purely from a host's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I get why you're saying what you're saying, because Airbnb favours the host every time.
Absolutely.
And this is where my experience with Airbnb has left me with a really sour taste.
Yeah.
So coming out at the end of the pandemic, in November, just before things started to open up again in 2023,
yes,
we reached out to a host and said, we would love to book your property. We're trying to plan a holiday for next year, but we also have this uncertainty of whether or not Spain will be open for tourism. We'll be able to leave the UK. Now, at the time, Airbnb changed all of their policies for people who were planning on staying, where if you booked, it was 100% non-refundable. I get why they done it, because again, they lost a lot of money during the pandemic and they had to pay a lot of people back. So they changed their policies to protect them. That's fine. However, we reached out to a host in Sitges, and there was 10 of us going, and we had planned to book this gorgeous apartment for the week, to the tune of about $3,000 or something it was. And we reached out to the host before we booked, and we explained to the host, under no uncertain terms would we be ever looking to cancel unless we cannot get into your country. If we cannot get into your country, we have no control over that. So if Spain hasn't opened its borders, we can't physically come in. Therefore, this is the only circumstance we would ever ask for our money back.
Right, okay.
Do you agree to that? If we book today, is that something you would be open to? The host said, yes. Thought, brilliant, perfect, no problem. Got the whole way to July, and Spain still hadn't opened their borders. And it was the day before. And I messaged the host and I said, we're not going to be able to come. And the host basically wrote back saying, well, we're not getting your money back because the terms and the conditions state that all properties are non-refundable. And I said, hold on, please read back through our message. We had an agreement that you would honour a refund if we can't get into the country. Mm-hmm. So anyway, long story short, I reached out to Airbnb with all the evidence that clearly states we had an agreement prior to booking, and they come back and they told me, no, we cannot refund you. Our policies override any agreement that you have with your host. And I said, but the host agreed. And they said, but if the host isn't willing to give you that money back, then our policy applies. Now, that's an instance where I got a little bit upset. In the end, I basically told the host that we will come, we will stay in your property, but do not expect anything short of a shoddy review. I had a refund in no time. They got the money back like that.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a very smart.
But I had it really put me off because it's not traveller friendly. There are circumstances. The hosts are not always right.
No.
And if you enter an agreement with somebody and you book in good faith, then they should really be in a position to honour that.
Yeah. When I was booking, when the whole lockdown thing happened and I had a holiday booked for Gran Canaria and I couldn't get, and booking.com it was through, and the host who was in booking.com, which is basically almost the same, was like, no, you're not getting no money back. So I, like yourself, was, well, yeah, I am going to get my money back. At the end of the day, it's not my fault. It's not your fault. So, but booking.com, I have to say, said, can you leave this with us for up to 72 hours? There are so many cancellations coming through. And it took about 4 days. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't go in, and they came back and they apologized and they said, would you like a full refund or would you like a voucher? And I said, just give me a full refund because I have a funny feeling this is going to go on forever.
For a while. And it did.
And it did. It did. So, you know what? So it's like Airbnb saying our policies, but realistically saying that to the host has made him go, oh, so he couldn't stop you from coming to stay because you had paid for it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to leave him, and you can leave whatever review you want, and it has to be posted.
Yeah.
So therefore he's thought, oh, do you know what?
It's not worth the money.
It's not worth the money. Yeah.
But it just, and from that moment on, I vowed I would never, because I just felt that it was so, the policy was so hostile.
Yeah.
That there was no recourse, even though the Airbnb person who came in to mediate between our disagreement, could see the transcript, could see that person had agreed to that.
It was in black and white.
And they still sided with that, with the host saying, oh, well, our policy, if he doesn't want to give you the money back, he doesn't have to.
Yeah. I think if you would have had a really good court case there.
Do you know, I don't think I would have let it go that far. To be honest, the next step would have been just to contact my credit card company and ask them to refund it and let them sort of deal with it, because, you know, that, as I said, I would have been able to provide all of the evidence that I've tried to get my money back, and there was an agreement there.
It was like me on New Year's Eve there, just past, coming into 2024. I arrived at my favourite hotel on New Year's Eve, and I just knew, you just know when they're looking at you at reception. But one of them was over sitting on the seats where everybody sits when they come in to check in, and the other guy was, and I just knew by the way the eyes were, and I was like, oh legs, hey, what have you done? What have you done? And they came and they said, we're very sorry, but we've made a mistake and there's something wrong with the pipes and the water. And
oh, flip.
I said, are you trying to tell me I don't have a room? And he went, well, you could wait, or you could, we'd put you up in another hotel for one night and then come back tomorrow. Or we can put you up in our sister hotel, which is 1 minute, which is actually away from here, and it's next door, in Neptuno. And, but we'll make it all inclusive.
Oh, wow. That's definitely one way of putting it right.
I couldn't get my roller boots on quick enough. I'm telling you, I hit that plaza. I swear I was away like a whippet. Want to see me? Dead on, love. Make sure I'm on the 5th floor. I love staying on the top, you see. And so you'd like us to help you go up a street? I was like, no, I'm dead on. I've had about 7 double gins in me. I was baiting up a street, and then I was baiting the Hotel Neptuno. That was gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really lovely, but I prefer the other one.
So you have your comforts, don't you? So you kind of know, you like what you like.
Yeah. And it's one of those places where you literally fall out of bed and you fall into the Jumbo, and I know them all and they all know me. And I have this thing where I love traveling alone. I don't mind going with my besties, but I love traveling alone, right? And then you want to see what I wear beside the pool. Oh my God, me and my cheeky wee thong and all, and my wee throw over, my hair up in a ponytail. And when I'm lying beside the pool, I can't stand people who be sitting at the bar, right? And I'll have a feed of drink and I'll have a whole load of food, and there's only one person on behind the bar. I get up, I walk across, Maria, that's the girl that works behind the bar, and I get a wee towel, and she be serving everybody, and I get a wee towel and a wee bottle of squirty.
Go around and wipe the
and I go around and I lift all the knives and the forks and the plates and oh, Tina, thank you so much, darling. We love you. And I'd be, go your head, Maria. I've got this. I'm grand. And then people think you actually work in the hotel as well. And you're like, no, honey, I'm only part-time.
Did you hear the whole drama about Justin Timberlake this week?
Yes.
Isn't that madness?
Oh, drink driving.
You
got a DUI, honey.
He did.
What's that? Drunk under
the influence.
Yes, right?
Under the influence. So
that's not what I thought. That's not what I thought it meant.
What do you think it meant?
I'm not even going to say, because I thought FML was completely something. Do you know where this comes from? Do you know BFF?
Yes, best friend forever, best female friend. Yeah.
My mummy thought it meant best friend fell, and I thought FML was fuck me like.
Well, it is in fact fuck my life.
So Justin Timberlake.
Yes, Justin Timberlake.
Why would you be that rich, that successful, and that stupid?
So, do you know, I'd seen a meme about this. It's like, the meme was, why is it that every celebrity who has more money than most can't take public transport or afford an Uber? Like, why is it they feel the need to drive themselves somewhere?
I know.
Is it like, they feel that they've more money, that therefore they can just pay somebody off?
Or, like, if he was sitting in his mate's penthouse apartment, he's a wee bit stoned off his walloper. Do you know what I mean? Or he's had one wee whack too much and he's kind of I'd be all right to drive. No, you won't. What's wrong with What's wrong with you phoning the missus or phoning your mummy or daddy and saying, listen, I'm a bit wasted here. Would you do me a wee favour? Would you come around and collect me? Where are you? And like, White Rock. You know, as a comparison, like, I'm not that far away. Like, what are you doing up there? Oh, I just met these people after my concert, mummy, and I was just getting away, and they're really dead on, and they're coming to stay with me and all next year. Do you know what I mean? Why jump in behind the wheel of your car?
I honestly don't know, but did you hear that the police officer that pulled him over was so young? The police officer didn't actually know who he was.
He didn't know who he was? I bet you he was sitting behind the wheel and all, thinking he was a dog with two things.
Yeah.
And going...
But apparently, the police officer had said that he had heard, and again, I don't know whether there's truth in this, but it's sort of what's going around. That the police officer apparently heard Justin saying, "Oh no, I've been pulled over. This will ruin the tour." And apparently, the police officer said, "Well, what tour?" And he went, "Oh, the world tour." And the police officer was like, "Of what?" Because he didn't know.
He just hadn't got a clue who he was.
But do you know the best thing that came out of all of this is that Britney fans did not let this pass. They did not let it pass.
Oh,
so
I'm sure.
On one of Britney's albums, a couple of years ago, she released a song called "Criminal." And Britney fans, in the meantime, started streaming the life out of that to get it back into the top 100 as a way of sort of saying, you know, this is about Justin Timberlake as payback. Fans can be so cruel.
I know.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was drag bars in London.
Oh.
Have you been to London for a night out? Have you been to any of the drag bars? Have you been to like the Two Brewers in Clapham or any of that?
Not for a while.
So we went, I mentioned on one of the previous episodes that we were away to Mighty Hoopla. And on the Sunday night, we left kind of early. Jessie Ware was closing. We're not big fans. And we thought, well, if we leave early, we can sort of beat the rush. Yeah. Because like everywhere in London, the gays will disperse and they'll all go to the same bars. So the bars get busy super quick. So we went to the Two Brewers in Clapham. Now, I can highly recommend going. It's the kind of bar that... Do you remember the way Union Street used to be years ago, where they had drag entertainment on 7 nights a week?
Yeah.
Or they had some form of entertainment, maybe not necessarily just drag, but they have something on every single night of the week. So it's that kind of bar. And their kind of setup is drag queens will come out and they perform for 2 hours solid. They don't go off the stage. They don't go for a cigarette break. They don't go, I'll be back in 15 minutes, you know, unless of course maybe they need the loo or something like that. It's, you know, but
it's a 2 hour set.
It's a 2 hour show.
Yeah.
And they do their 2 hours, and the majority of the queens in London sing live.
Right. Okay.
They do comedy. So it's a fully rounded show. It's kind of what you would expect, in my opinion, from London, you know, nation's capital and all that jazz. But 2 hours of drag, 2 hours of singing, and what the way that their sort of lineup works, they normally have drag queens on in 2 hour slots on a given night. So just say for Toxic, Tina, you might be on between 7 and 9. Somebody might come on then between 9 and 11, and then somebody's on 11 until 1. So you've got like, you know, non-stop entertainment
back
all
to
night.
back.
Can highly recommend going if you ever are in London and you're looking for a night out. Now, just as an FYI, do not put into Google Maps or Apple Maps Two Brewers and expect it to give you the right one, because there are many Two Brewers in London, as a friend of mine and I recently discovered, hopping into an Uber, thought we were going to the correct one, jumped out of the taxi, turned around, we're like, this is the wrong place. Ended up in the back street somewhere, had to get another Uber to the correct place. Wow. So it's the Two Brewers in Clapham.
The Two Brewers in Clapham. Do you think the taxi driver would have said which one?
No, well, it's an Uber, so we put in our destination. He just drove us, so it's totally our fault.
Down to see Maura Dubois.
Oh gosh, yes. We had a conversation about her on chat very recently. Yes. Do you remember? So we had seen a video of that she had done, and she was just hilarious from start to finish. Now she's actually touring. She is coming to Belfast. Tickets unfortunately have sold out, and I'm not surprised, because she is funny as she's really funny. That to me is campy drag, right? She's personified.
Also very smart.
Oh
very
gosh, yes,
intelligent. Yes.
Her humor. Like we've talked, maybe not on the podcast, but we certainly talked off the podcast about sort of the types of humor that we're attracted to. My kind of humor is the really well crafted. The jokes are overarched, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's like they tell you something at the beginning that doesn't really make much sense until the very end. So comedians are very good at doing this. The likes of Joe Lycett, for example,
Yeah.
is brilliant at setting up a joke at the beginning of a show,
Yeah.
but doesn't close that joke off until the very end.
Yeah.
But a lot of his comedy, and I think this is where you and I are sort of mutually agreed when we come to comedy, is it's very situational.
Yes, it is. It is. And when you see some of the clips of her and stuff, you know what I mean? I would love to sit with a good few drinks, a good few friends, and just sit back and watch. Because I've always said this all along. My hero, my drag hero was Lilly Savage.
Yeah, you
God
did say
rest
that,
her.
yeah.
And that's how it really started, you know, way, 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 way back in the day. And the reason why I loved her because she was a talker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she could take a microphone and pretty much the same out of drag as what she is in drag. But when she was in drag, it was very heightened and it was very, you know, it was cutthroat.
But her stories, they provide a
Unbelievable.
lot of detail.
Yeah.
And it's that detail which
Yeah.
makes it very situational because people can relate to it.
Yeah,
And I think that's where her comedy transcended everything else.
completely. And she talked about her sister, her daughter, and made it all very realistic. And, you know,
They're fully formed characters. I mean, they were,
Absolutely.
and I think from watching a documentary that was on very recently, the sister that she had was her best friend, who else was a drag queen, right? So it was like,
Veronica.
Veronica.
Yeah.
So that was
and
where.
her daughter was called Bunty.
So it's where a lot of these stories were built in fact.
Do you know who her daughter actually was when she done her shows and she done her videotapes? Do you remember she came second in the Eurovision Song Contest in the 90s, Sonia?
Oh yes,
And she sang
Better the Devil You Know.
Better the Devil
Yeah,
You Know.
yeah.
She came second.
Yeah.
Well, that was Lilly Savage's daughter,
Okay.
Bunty.
Okay.
And the reason why she called her Bunty was because, you know, the magazine, the Girls Met Kids comic. Do you remember Bunty?
Might have been before my time.
Oh, Generation X, help me out here. There was a girly comic called Bunty.
Okay.
So it was. And that's where Lilly Savage got the name for Sonia.
Okay.
Now, there was a couple of other characters, but because Sonia's from Liverpool and Lily's from
Birkenhead.
Birkenhead, it was just, I loved her. Did I ever tell you about the story we went to see her in the Grand Opry?
I don't think you did.
Oh, so we all got tickets at the last minute, but we had to stand at the back. And I'd been out partying the whole weekend, and it was a Monday night, and we went, and that was me. I want to do drag. I want this. I love this. But it wasn't like a really over sensational, I want to do that. I want to be a part of it. It was kind of, I think I could do that, you know? So they were all, after the show was over, Mum would go to the bar, and I was like, no, I'm just going to go home. So I jumped in a taxi, and I went home. And there was very little people there, and who came out to the bar to sit and have a drink? Lilly Savage.
Wow. Was she in drag or was it
No,
as
as Paul.
Wow. Okay.
Came out and sat down, and they were all chatting away to him, and I was devastated. And I think that was a moment where I went, right, that's it.
There was
I'm
your
doing
tantrum
this.
moment.
There was my tantrum. Yeah. And but I never regretted not going, you know.
Yeah.
It didn't ruin what I seen and what I felt. She was just, and when I look at Maura Dubois,
Yeah.
when I look at Bianca Del Rio, when I look at Bob the Drag Queen, I could listen to them day and night. You know, very matter of fact, super funny, sarcastic. You know, I think, you know, the American sense of humor is different to ours.
Very much.
Very, very different. But you've got to get inside their heads to understand their
Yeah.
comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas they need to get inside our heads to understand our comedy.
I think a lot of our comedy, though, especially if you look at the way comedy has evolved in the UK,
Yeah.
like it's camp is
Absolutely.
camp comedy here
Works.
It's kind of it kind of melts us, I would say, as a nation.
Yeah.
That kind of comedy is really funny
Yeah.
to us.
Absolutely.
Whereas in America, it's maybe just not as camp. It's more glamorous and polished. And,
Yeah.
Um,
You've got to have a certain look to get away with your comedy
Yeah.
and to carry it and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Whereas I quite like the big MILF kind of sort of short skirt, nice arse, big heels, big hair, big hoops, and you open your gub. And I think, you know, when you look at, even go further back than Lilly Savage, do you remember Danny La Rue?
I've heard of Danny La Rue.
Right.
It's not somebody that I remember seeing perform.
Danny La Rue was stunning back in the day. Very glamorous. Brilliant entertainer. But more of a variety cabaret artist type drag. You know, done a lot of shows. He done the old school numbers on Mother Kelly's doorstep and all that, you know. And he had his own. I remember seeing him when I was very little. I was 6 or 7. There used to be a program on called Old Mill or something, and he had and they all dressed up in them big frilly hats. All the women and the men wore them big high shirts with the ties all
Cravats.
up here. Yes, cravats. Sorry, and. He was phenomenal. He was, I remember looking at him and going, not understanding what it was, but I knew it was a guy, you know, in drag. Mummy and Daddy loved him. And then the next one, I kind of went on about my wee life. And then big Lilly came. I just loved her. And then my best friend Kathy, she bought me the very first videotape and I started to dabble, you know, when I was just a little girl.
She was your inspiration?
She was.
Wow.
She always will be, because no matter what, when you look back at the old Lilly tapes, and she was a heavy smoker.
Yeah.
You know, she had a fag in one hand, she had a fag in her lips, and she just carried on.
Well, unfortunately, that is all we have time for.
I know,
we don't even have time for a sip and share this week because we have talked so much.
The legs of we've talked the big tin of legs of ourselves.
With 2 G's, because I've got two legs.
That's true.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week.
Yeah, guys. Thank you so much to everybody everywhere. We absolutely adore y'all.
Yes, we do indeed. And please do take a second and share the podcast with friends or family. Send it in WhatsApp. You can find us on all of the major platforms, like the one that you found us on today.
Absolutely.
So we will be back next week with our main episode.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right, Lexi.
All right, Glenn.
Until next time.
Chin chin.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at G&T Pod. If you would like to write in a question or send us a voice note, you'll find the details in the description of this episode. And of course, if we haven't already asked enough of you, please subscribe and leave a review, but be kind. Much love, G&T.